Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a story that's pretty hard to believe. It's about a secret campaign, a campaign of surveillance and psychological warfare. The target? None other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the group behind it all? The FBI.
I mean, seriously, what if a government tried to blackmail a national hero into taking his own life? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? But this isn't Hollywood. This really happened. Back in 1964, the FBI launched this exact kind of secret campaign against Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So let's talk about the main weapon in this campaign. It was an anonymous package, something that showed up for Dr. King in November of 1964. Inside was a letter, a document that has since gone down in history with some pretty chilling names, the poison pen letter or even the suicide letter.
Just listen to this. The language here is so important. You see, this wasn't just some random hate mail. It was written by the FBI's own intelligence chief, a guy named William Sullivan. And he was smart about it. He wrote it to sound like it was coming from a fellow black activist who had lost faith in the movement. The idea was to create chaos, to make King paranoid, and to turn people against him from the inside.
And it gets worse. The letter wasn't the only thing in the package. No, it came with an audio tape. This was a greatest hits compilation, if you will, of recordings the FBI had secretly made by bugging King's hotel rooms. And what was on it? Allegedly, evidence of his extramarital affairs. The message couldn't have been clearer. We're listening. We know everything.
And then came the final punch. The letter ends with this line: "There is but one way out for you." And to give him a deadline, 34 days. Now, King and his closest advisors, they knew exactly what this meant. There was no ambiguity. They saw it for what it was: the FBI telling Dr. King to kill himself.
It's just staggering, right? Why? Why on earth would the FBI, a government agency, do something like this? Why try to destroy one of the most important leaders in the country? Well, the answer takes us deep into the mind of one man, the FBI's powerful and frankly deeply paranoid director, J. Edgar Hoover.
Okay, so to understand Hoover's secret war, you've got to remember the time. We're talking the height of the Cold War. Hoover built his entire career, his entire reputation on fighting communism. He saw communists under every rock. So when the civil rights movement started gaining momentum, he didn't see a fight for justice and equality. Nope, he saw a communist plot to undermine America.
Now, to be clear, the FBI never found a shred of evidence that King himself was a communist. But one of his closest advisors, a man named Stanley Levison, was on their radar as a suspected communist. And for Hoover, that connection was all he needed. That was his justification. The real turning point, though, it was after the March on Washington and that incredible "I Have a Dream" speech. That's when a top FBI official wrote a now infamous memo calling King the most dangerous Negro of the future in this nation.
So how did they actually do all this? They had a secret playbook, a program called COINTELPRO. Think of it as the FBI's dirty tricks department. It was this whole series of secret and, let's be honest, totally illegal projects designed to mess with groups they called subversive. It started with communists, but pretty soon they were using it on everyone: anti-war protesters, student activists, and yes, civil rights leaders.
And look at the stated goals of this program: expose, disrupt, discredit, neutralize. These words tell you everything you need to know. This wasn't about just watching people. It was about actively wrecking their lives and their movements. And by the mid-60s, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was at the very top of their list.
So with COINTELPRO as their weapon, the campaign to neutralize King went into overdrive. And it got personal, really fast. This wasn't just about his politics anymore. It became a full-on psychological attack designed to completely destroy him as a person.
You can really see how quickly things escalated. They start with wiretaps on his advisor in '62. By late '63, they have permission to tap King's own home and offices. And here's the kicker. The whole reason they got the taps approved was to look for communist ties. They found nothing, zero. But what they did find were details about King's private life. So what did the FBI do? They just switched gears. They decided, okay, we can't get him on communism, so we'll use his personal life to ruin him.
So let's get back to that poison pen letter. The timing is just awful. The package actually arrived while King was in Oslo, of all places, accepting the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you imagine? He comes back from this incredible honor, opens this package, reads the letter, listens to that tape, and it just crushed him. He reportedly fell into a really deep depression. But even in that state, he and his team knew. They knew exactly who it was from, the FBI.
But here's the thing about trying to break a spirit like Dr. King's. The FBI's plan? It backfired. Big time. They wanted to neutralize him, to scare him into silence. And what did he do just a few months later? He helped lead the historic marches from Selma to Montgomery, one of the absolute defining moments of the entire movement, which led directly to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So yeah, it didn't exactly work.
So for years, all of this whole secret war, it stayed secret. Nobody knew about it. And the story of how it all finally came out is almost as wild as the story itself.
It all started in 1971, when a group of activists literally broke into an FBI office and found documents that mentioned COINTELPRO. That kicked off a firestorm. By 1975, the Senate launched a huge investigation led by Senator Frank Church. And it was his committee that dug deep into the FBI's files and found a copy of the actual suicide letter. It was the smoking gun. This all led to a court case, and finally, the whole sordid affair was out in the open.
But here's a really interesting twist. That court case in the 70s, it didn't destroy the tapes. Instead, the judge ordered them to be sealed away in the National Archives for 50 years. Well, do the math. That 50-year seal is up in 2027. So, very soon, the full, unedited record of everything the FBI heard on those tapes is scheduled to become public. Today, the FBI is very open about this part of its history, calling it shameful and using it as a lesson for new agents. In fact, former FBI Director James Comey famously kept a copy of the King wiretap request right on his desk, as a constant reminder of how power can be abused. But of course, a lot of people point out that while the FBI might regret what they did to King, the tactics of surveillance haven't gone away. They just have new targets, like Black Lives Matter activists or members of the Muslim community. Ultimately, the story of this letter, this whole campaign, is a chilling reminder of what can happen when power goes unchecked. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this is what we know about, what other secrets are still out there, locked away in a file somewhere, just waiting for their own deadline to finally come to light?